A peaceful studio this time, I feel, perhaps. Last week, we had an interesting discussion with Deontay Wilder. Before we discuss the various nuances of that, let's listen to some of it that happened last week. I wanted to move you on to Tyson Fury.
And I don't want to talk about him.
No, you're going to.
We're here about this.
No, but you're going to.
We're not going to talk about him at all.
But as part
we're
of
not going to talk about him at all. Understand that?
No, fair enough.
All right, then. So let's move on. It's all about Derek Chisora, and that's it.
I understand that. The only
back, baby. Y'all understand that? You better be. April the 4th is going down.
The only reason.
At the O2, you better be there.
Fabulous.
You'll be a square.
The only reason I mentioned it is because it's part of the shtick that goes with you. And I missed you first time round when you came in here 3 years ago, when you were in your pomp 4 years ago, doing Bomb Squad and all that sort of stuff. And I've always wanted to have a conversation with you because you've made observations about Fury. I have my own views on Fury. And you've called him a cheat. And it leads me
the biggest in boxing.
Yeah, but it leads me to a conclusion.
Biggest in boxing. If somebody practicing, taking their stuff out of their gloves in training, what you think they're going to do in the fight?
Yeah, but...
That's all I got to say about that,
I want to put something to you about you, right? And Fury just happens to be the hook for it.
That's all I got to say about him.
You talked about being cheated in that fight. You talked about water being spiked. You talked about your Game of Thrones outfit being too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
You said it was too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, I might be wrong on that one. You talked about the long...
Y'all took a journalist that said something because y'all, everybody wanted to come in, why did boom, boom, boom.
You talked about a long count, right? And then you talked about the trainers, Mark Breland not being good enough.
No, I ain't say he wasn't good enough.
So what I'm asking you in all of this is, it sounds to me, given the character that you are, that's like a little bit flaky. You lost those fights, and those fights were lost. And you saying that someone like Fury cheated you in those fights, I think is kind of disappointing to me about you.
Because I know the truth. I have the facts.
Okay.
Understand that. You can believe what. Why is it so hard to believe a black man in a white man? Understand me? Why is it so hard to believe a black man in a white man?
Why you don't believe it?
Why is it?
Let me ask the question.
Yeah, go on.
So we can go there.
First and foremost, it's got nothing to do with colour.
No, it does. This whole country got something. This whole world got something to do with race. Tell him to sue me so I can show the facts early. Because when the documentary and everything, the story come out, I'm gonna show everything.
Fantastic.
I'm gonna get all the people that know, and all the people that's in the inside. He got people that the inside of him that can know. I don't about that.
I'm not a Fury fan.
I don't about it. I said we didn't want to bring him up in the first place. It ain't got shit to do with him.
Fair enough.
The you talking about?
Yeah, man. You, man. I'm out too.
Paul, unfortunately for me, you weren't here last week. I was left with Tattoo from Fantasy Island to defend me, and we'll get to him in a minute. When you look at that, and I know you will have seen all of the show, what did you make of all that?
I don't think he's all there at the moment, or what we get with Deontay Wilder. What I've noticed over the years, there's a lot of big American heavyweights and American fighters who are more sort of interested in how things seem and look than actually how they are. Now, he's at a strange point in his career where many, possibly yourselves, think it's not there no more for him. I think he's past it compared to what he was. I think he's at definitely the latter stages of his career. And so is Chisora, so I'm okay with the fight because it's evenly matched. If he was up against someone young and someone hungry or someone established, like a Dubois or like a Tama, then I would have a problem with it, but that's not sort of normal behavior. At the end of the day, you've said a lot of stuff. You're going to be asked about that stuff, and the stuff that he's saying is not really fair towards Tyson Fury. He's taking stuff out the gloves, and I'm sure Tyson's legal team will probably have a lot to say about that, but I would have liked to see him answer what you were asking him as well, and as you said, if I was there, I think I'd have done a bit more than your other bodyguards on the end there, Spencer.
Absolutely, not difficult. We'll get to you in a second. What was your... a lot of people watched it, and I was disappointed, Lewis, because I wanted the interview to go a different way. And there were so many questions that we could have asked, and he's such an intriguing character. And I felt disappointed and a little bit embarrassed that the interview had gone off the rails and we'd lost the opportunity. Of course, other people like it because it's sensationalised. But when you looked at it, what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I was nervous for you watching it, so I was, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's a fighter. Fighters have a lot of emotion and stuff, and you could see obviously like the losses they're still playing on his mind. Like he did come out with things like saying they were heavy and whatnot. So I think just looking back on them defeats, it's really took a toll on his whole ego as such.
I mean, one of the people that was lighting it up a little bit was Derek Chisora, who was enjoying it and creating a different scenario in the studio than was there. And also I noticed that Derek has had a lot to say for himself. after the interview, and I just want to clarify in people's minds, because I've seen it being reported. At no point was that question excluded from the interview. At no point prior to the interview was it excluded. Derek kept Deontay waiting for 45 minutes because he was late. So I expect he was getting an agitated frame of mind sitting upstairs in the green room. But if I'd have been asked in a production meeting or prior to the show not to have asked that question, I'd have debated with them prior to the show going, I didn't want to put that question. And if I was told categorically, you don't ask that question, then, and I'd agreed not to do it, which is somewhat, I think, what Deontay's saying and what Chisora was saying, is totally untrue. Because if I'd have said to those boys, now, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to ask that question, and then went and asked it, then I'd expect to be getting all the blowback that I got. But that conversation, that question was never off the roster. It was never what I considered to be an unreasonable question, because we're sitting in the UK, we're talking about Tyson Fury, who's in this country is regarded by lots of people very highly, and you've got an American heavyweight coming in there telling everybody that he's a cheat. So I don't think it's unreasonable. But prior to just, or in line with just correcting Derek, let's also have a listen to what Derek has been saying, because a lot of it is a lot of old nonsense. If you want to go, go. If you want to be clever, Derek, be clever. That's not right. What happened there wasn't right.
He told you don't bring it up, but you...
Come on. It's on schedule. I had to ask the question. What about Fury?
He told you...
Everyone else can ask him. Rick Reno asks him. Why can't I ask him? Derek, sit down. Come on. I waited for you for half an hour. Don't be a dickhead. Don't be a... I only show that not because I want to glorify myself, but because Derek's running around saying things that aren't true. And I got a phone call from him on Thursday with his little mate Jason, who's a friend of mine, ringing me up and telling me what he thought of it and so on and so forth. One of the things that I did notice from the environment was a lack of support from you, Spence. Where was my able-bodied assistant? Where was the person that I turned to look for support in moments of need? Where were you in all this?
What support would you have wanted from me? To bring you a change of pants? Like, what was the situation with this? Like, your little mate on the end there as well, Paul Smith, he wouldn't have been doing anything either. If you were sitting next to Deontay Wilder, get me in there, and you saw him raging the way he was, by the way, I knew he wasn't going to hit you.
He would have looked after me.
I would have easy.
I would have bought 2 pairs of pants then. All right, 2 pairs of pants, there you go. But,
big ones
no,
for
look,
me.
on a serious note, yeah, Deontay lost it a little bit. Look, that question is always going to get brought up, isn't it, about Tyson Fury? How can you do an interview with Deontay Wilder and not bring up the question about Tyson Fury? That is part of it. I spoke to him, as well, and he sort of he didn't want that question to be asked. You go, well, how are you not going to ask that question? That was the point. So and he lost it. It clearly irritates him. He can't get over the losses to Tyson Fury. And to answer the question, by the way, guys, about his mental state of mind at the moment. If you go back in history, Deontay Wilder, that is Deontay Wilder. If anything, that showed me that is the Deontay Wilder of old. His character at least coming back. Whether he can implement that in the ring is a different story. But that was the old Deontay Wilder, where he's sort of like, he blows up, he's unpredictable. And we saw a little bit of that. So from his side of things, you go, well, that might be a positive, And I think to answer people's questions about whether he's in the right mental state of mind and whether he's mentally not quite there yet, well, the answer would be, well, it's no different to what he used to be like. I think that's just his character. I think that he's absolutely fine. When you speak to him off camera, guy's fine. He's absolutely fine. If someone's mentally not right, you can tell in their eyes when you're speaking to them. You know that there's an aura around them. That you get that feeling. With Deontay Wilder, he's fine.
Put aside the circus act that a lot of people, not me, but a lot of people enjoyed in terms of the controversy of Deontay becoming very aggressive and storming out the studio and whatever else that went with it. When you look at the likely outcome in this fight, Paul, where would you go with this? I mean, we talked about the Bronze Bomber and this, because one of the things that I did talk to him about was this ayahuasca situation. Yeah. And that was one of the things I was intrigued to understand how he's got himself involved with that situation, because that process is a process that strips people of all their ego, pairs them back to the basics and gets them back into some sort of condition. And as a fighter, one of the things you need is your ego, the belief that you can do things that others can't. And his alter ego is the Bronze Bomber. So I was alluding to the fact that by doing ayahuasca, you've put yourself in a situation where you've changed your whole character, your whole outlook. Are you going to get back to that? And then, of course, we see the outburst, and then you superimpose, the Bronze Bomber's back. Do you get the impression that we're going to see a revitalised Deontay Wilder? And if we do, who would you pick to win that fight?
Not really. I don't expect to see a revitalised one. If he is, then I might try asking myself because I wouldn't mind being revitalised. But I don't think it does that. With all due respect, and all jokes aside, and I just think I'm a boxing purist. I'm a boxing person, and I think I've seen over the years, just like Spencer, Lewis, even yourself will notice and see it. You see over the years, fighters decline with age. Father Time beats us all, and then there's no real way back. I don't think you can't wind the clock back. You can't go to the fountain of youth. It's not, it's not that. And I think it was gone a good few fights ago with Wilder. Just my opinion, but that's what I've seen and what has been proven. The same with Chisora. I was one who was calling for Chisora to probably retire, but, and then when he was going to get to 50, I was thinking, well, okay, at least it's going to be against the right type of opponents.
Irrespective of his performance against Gerald Washington, against Otto Wallin, against Joe Joyce, this new renaissance.
Yeah, just because it's the wrong sport to overstay your welcome. And my case for fighters, I care about fighters. I don't want to see anyone. What happened to Spencer years ago, thankfully the British Boxing Board of Control's medical facilities is unbelievable. And Spencer's here laughing, breathing and cowering away when you're getting attacked.
I was going to say,
But
bringing spare pairs of pants to your shows, what's all that about?
But fighter first and fighter safety first. The only reason I'm okay with this fight is both of them in the same boat.
Yeah.
But as a fight, I can see maybe Chisora weathering the storm. I think Chisora's probably got a bit more left than Wilder. Weathering the early storm, the early onslaught, coming on strong, probably stopping him late.
Where are you, Lewis, on this fight?
I would sort of favour Chisora, so I would. But as I say, like when I think of Deontay Wilder, it's one punch KOs, and it's so many of them as well. So especially as you always say, like the power's the last thing to go, and especially as a heavyweight, it just takes one shot. So it'd be interesting to see how much he has really in the tank left.
Yeah, I don't think we've sort of witnessed anything in recent times to think that Deontay Wilder has got anything left in the tank. And I think the fighter is the first one to know it and the last one to admit it. And I think he's going through that stage right now where he goes, he still thinks he's got it. He's had his troubles outside of the ring. He's now blaming that for his performances inside it. But I'm with you guys. I think that when it's left you, it's left you. But one thing that doesn't leave you is that punch. And, I think if he can rediscover a little bit of the old bronze bomber and maybe fight with his heart on his sleeve a little bit more and let his hands go, we've got a great fight. It's a great fight.
That's the thing with it, though. Like, Billy Graham used to saying, fighters are the best people in the world at lying to themselves and lying to, I am fit, I am on weight, I am going to do this. I think he's trying that much to convince himself. He's trying to convince us, and I don't think we're going to be convinced that he's still got it and that's still there. But he's probably trying to do a job on himself and trying to speak to himself in that way every day. I've still got it. I'm still a bronze bomber. And I'm still this. And as the lads have just said, the power is probably the last thing to leave you, but the timing leaves you first as well.
He was very clear in his mind, and we'll move it on to some other heavyweight news in a second. But he was very clear in his mind that the distractions out of the ring, all of the consequences of the things that were going on in his life, and the epiphany he had was after the Zhang fight, that he realised that his mind wasn't here. He wasn't blaming Malik Scott. He wasn't blaming anything, and he wasn't seeking for any kind of excuse making. He was saying my mind was completely out of kilter. And I sort of said to him, well, I thought you'd have realised that after the Parker fight. But he was clear that his mind was clear. We'll see. Listen, on paper, it looks like a fascinating fight. I'm with you that you've got two fighters that are at the different ends of their career, so it probably equals out. I think Chisora wins. I think he does what Derek does. He pushes him back. And when Deontay's on the back foot, he can't throw punches as he does. It gets off balance. But anyway, we'll see.